Toronto. VK on the beat. Check. I'm in Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm from Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm in Toronto like we wanna get the city love. My city love me back for my city love.
Welcome to episode 1561 of Toronto Mic'd, proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery who believes in supporting communities, good times, and brewing amazing beer. Order online for free local home delivery in the GTA. Palma Pasta. Enjoy the taste of fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. The Advantaged Investor Podcast from Raymond James Canada. Learn how to plan, invest, and live smarter. Season 7 of Yes, We Are Open, an award-winning podcast from Moneris. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. Committing to our planet's future means properly recycling our electronics of the past. And Ridley Funeral Home, pillars of the community since 1921. Today, making his Toronto Mic debut is Jeff Spindel. Welcome, Jeff.
Hey, happy to be here.
You're not only a longtime radio personality whose voice many will recognize, but I consider you a friend of a friend. Do you know why I've given you that moniker? Why do I think of you as a friend of a friend?
I do not know.
Okay. FOTM Hall of Famer Cam Gordon, when he heard that you were coming on Toronto Mike, he wrote me a little note. So now that you're comfy, I'm going to hit you with the Cam Gordon, and then we're going to crack open some Great Lakes and talk about your career in radio and what's going on. Tell him, that's you, Jeff. Tell him Cam remembers him as a very solid dude. Also, by the way, that's high praise from Cam.
Yeah, I like it so far.
Okay, it gets better. Okay. Also, pretty sure Jeff and I were teammates for a Thornhill Little League team that won the championship in its age bracket in 1993 or so. I'll pause to get a reaction from you. Does Cam remember correctly?
Yeah. I'm not sure we won because I didn't win very many times.
But he wouldn't forget if you won.
No, I think we only won it all maybe twice. But Cam, yeah, he was on my team. I believe his father coached one year. Yeah, so
wow.
We go back, and then we went to high school together as well.
So you're a Thornley guy. Okay, I'll finish the Cam note, and then I'll hit you up with more Thornley questions, and then we'll get to radio at some point. But he says Spinny. Was that your nickname, Spinny?
Yeah, that's been an ongoing thing. Even on Boom, Matt would always call me Spinny. That was my thing.
That's a hockey thing, right? I feel like we just take names and we add like Y's to the end or something like
Pretty
that.
much, yeah.
Okay, we're so creative here. Okay. Spinny was a slugging third baseman, and the two Jeffs on that team, Spindel and Strauss, were real fan favorites. Also, our uniforms look like the New York Mets. These are some great memories Cam has.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, we had. I can't believe. I remember Jeff Strauss had a white glove.
Wow.
It wasn't very often you played with a white glove. You know, they're either brown or black or red. But yeah, he had a white glove. Daniel Rowland.
Okay. I was trying to think, did Willie Mays Hayes, remember when he would steal a base, he would pin the gloves to his like board or whatever. Do you remember this at all?
From Major League.
Major League, yeah.
Yeah, those were the batting gloves. I'm talking about an actual
glove.
A glove.
Okay.
The glove was white.
Baseball glove
like
was white.
Like a hockey glove, like a trapper.
Wow, that takes balls to have a white baseball glove. Like that's pretty brave of him.
Yeah.
But so the two Jeffs, and you may or may not have won a championship for your age bracket.
We could have. To be honest with you, my dad has my parents have all our baseball pictures, like our team photos in the basement, and I could check, and I could let you know.
Are you still a baseball fan?
Yeah, huge.
Okay, so the Mets are doing pretty well. I love playoff baseball. Like, it's just playoff baseball. Regular season, it kind of drags on. It's 162 games. You know, there's nothing less important than a regular season baseball game. But these playoff games have been amazing so far.
Yeah, I've been, it's funny because I was talking to a friend last night. I don't care for the Dodgers. I hate the Padres. I don't like the Yankees. Don't care for the Royals. And then I'm like, who am I going to cheer for? Don't care for the Phillies.
What about the Guardians?
Well, that's
shout out to Major League.
Yeah. Oh, that's one of the best movies of all time.
Absolutely. Do you know that movie may have invented walkout music? I think it invented the walkout music for a closer. Like prior to Wild Thing, there was no, you didn't have a special piece of music that would be played for a certain closer.
No, I mean, look at the Jays, like Tom Henke. He didn't come out to any music like that.
No.
Dwayne Ward, all those guys. But Wild Thing, Rick Vaughn.
Absolutely. And, you know, there's a song. I don't know how into like the baseball Variety Village charity singles that came out in the early 90s and late 80s. But there was a great song called The Ballad of Tom Henke. I don't know if you're aware of this, the term there.
Vaguely.
Okay.
Vaguely.
All right. So you're a baseball fan. We're going to get more to know you. We're going to get more to know you. I see clearly I've never been on the radio. We're going to get to know you better. But are you ready, Jeff, to crack open your Great Lakes beer that's in front of you?
Let's do it up.
Okay, on the mic.
Ready?
All right. Cheers to you. Good to meet you.
You as well.
Any friend of Cam's is a friend of mine.
Perfect.
So let's go back. Okay, so Thornley, just a little. I think we went way back with you, man. We're gonna find out like when you wanted to get into radio and how you made that happen, and then we'll talk about Stingray and Boom and where things are at for you now. And I have some nice notes from people who miss hearing your voice on the radio. But when you were at Thornley Collegiate, did you know Stu Stone?
I did. Yeah, he was the voice of Chucky on My Pet Monster.
Wow.
That was like his thing.
So what was it like? Like what kind of guy? I know Stu and Cam were pretty tight, but like from your perspective, what kind of guy was Stu? I'm going to be at the premiere of Stu Stone's new movie. He directed a new movie with his brother-in-law, Adam Rodness, and it's premiering at the Young Dundas Theatre tomorrow night. That's where I'm going to be tomorrow night. What was it like knowing Stu Stone in high school?
Yeah, no, he was a good guy. I remember his father owned a card store, Sluggers, and I used to be a big baseball card guy. And have you seen his? I think it's called Jack of All.
Of course, I have.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And his father sadly passed away.
Yeah.
Shout out to Ridley Funeral Home. But it was Jack Eisenstein, I believe, was his name, and it was Stu Eisenstein, and then Stu Stone was the stage name.
Yeah.
But you didn't go with a stage name because you really are a Jeff Spindel.
Yeah, I kind of sometimes I'm like I wish I switched that up, but yeah, no, that is my real name.
And we did talk a little bit about this before I press record, but you considered, was it Sean Jeffries?
Yeah, so my middle name is Sean, and obviously my first name is Jeffrey, so I was going to go with Sean Jeffries, but I wasn't working with Stu at the time, but I'm like
Stu Jeffries, not Stu Stone.
Yeah, so I can't do Sean Jeffries because it's too close to Stu, and then fast forward 25 years or whatever it was, it's like, oh hey,
That's wild.
we're coworkers.
Well, Jeff Spindel works, and I think it's kind of in vogue now to use your real name, like instead of all this like Mad Dog J. Michaels. Like he's neither a Mad Dog nor a Michaels.
Just to go back to my name for a second, I have
course.
people who think that it is not my real name because they think because we spin records, right? So they think that's what I
Right.
made up. And it's like, nope, that's my name.
Spinderella cut it up one time.
I've gotten that one too. Yep.
See, instead of Spinny, I'm going to call you Spinderella. That's your new nickname.
Do what you
here.
got to do.
Okay. So you're at Thornley Collegiate. When do you realize, hey, I want to be like that guy in My Pet Monster. I want to be in front of a microphone.
Oh no, I didn't want to be like him.
But he was in Donnie Darko, for God's sakes, at some point.
No, you know what it was? I started DJing for some parties, and I would bring like a stereo and my tapes and all that kind of stuff. And then I'm like, you know what? This is kind of fun. Let's see if we can do something with this. And then finished high school, tried to get into Humber, miserably failed, and then I got into it the second time around, and that's how it all began.
See, today, if your check clears, you're in Humber. I think that's how it works now.
that how it works?
But back then, they would actually have standards, you're telling me.
What I was told is there was 53 out of 3,000 people. I mean,
Wow.
now I don't know how many people they...
And what are where are we? Late 90s? Where
Late
the hell are we?
90s,
late
yeah.
90s. Okay, that's
mid to late 90s, yeah.
what a time to be alive, right? Like
Yeah.
like you could get a job in radio. Like this was a realistic dream for young Jeff that you could get a job in radio.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but it was fun.
It's fun. Okay, so you're going to school now at Humber, and you're going to be on the radio. What's your first on the radio moment? Like, where's your first break there?
Well, they allowed you to job out. So I actually got a job at CHFI, and I was just doing promotions there. We drove around in a car and we gave out stuff and blah, blah, blah. But Aaron Davis and Bob McGee were doing the morning show. And they put me on the air to just talk about the promotions vehicle. And it's kind of intimidating because my parents were huge CHFI fans, you know, with Don Daynard, Aaron Davis. They listened all the time. And then here I am sitting in the booth with Aaron Davis and Bob McGee, who are absolutely lovely, by the way. And they put me on and just talked about the car. That was my first on-air, you know, major market experience, I guess you could say.
And that's a monster station, CHFI. Are you kidding me? And did you know, fun fact, Bob McGee was married to Jeannie Becker. Did you know this?
Yeah.
Okay, see, if you have any fun facts like that, spit them in the mic. I'm collecting them, okay? I thought that was a great Bob McGee fun fact. He was on the radio super recently. Like, even though he's been around 50 plus years, I believe he was on Element FM, which is a station that broadcasts out of that Chorus Key building there. I feel like he was, maybe up until a couple of years ago, Bob McGee was doing the mornings there.
I didn't know that. I did not know.
See, I got to give you some fun facts, Jeff. Okay.
It's a learning experience here.
And how did the great FOTM Aaron Davis treat you? I mean, it sounds like she was lovely, but did you ever catch her on an off day?
No, she was fantastic. I mean, I didn't see her very often, but I mean, every time I saw her, she was great. I remember I went up to her with a shirt and I said, "I'm sorry, I hate to bother you, but my parents are huge fans. Can you sign this shirt for me?"
And she did.
Yeah, Aaron did, Bob did. I think that was about it.
All right, last Aaron Davis fun fact is she's married to a guy who was known on CJCL as Miles Long and was the first producer of Primetime Sports with Bob McCowan.
Didn't know that either.
See, listen, that's another one for me. I'm going to keep score over here, okay? You drop your fun facts, I'll drop mine.
I was going to tell you earlier that Major League, the scenes were filmed at in Milwaukee. Did you know that?
And that explains Bob Uecker.
There you go.
But I did. It was somehow, I don't know, cheaper or easier. I don't know. But you're right. I did.
And then Major League 2 was the new Comiskey.
See, Major League 2 I've erased from my memory bank. Like I saw it, and I never felt like seeing it again. But Major League, I could watch if I stumble upon it. Not that we stumble upon things as much anymore, but you know, once in a while I do flip just to see what's going on. Usually I see Rocky. Like I'll just like, I don't know, when the kids are going to bed or something and I'm in front of the TV, I'll start flipping, what do I have on this Bell 5? And I'll usually come across one of the Rocky films. And then I'm stuck. Like I got to watch it out.
That's like me with The Bourne Identity. It's on every day. And it's just like, all right, am I going to watch Identity, Supremacy, or Ultimatum? Those are one of my favorites.
Oh my God. I heard stories about Charlie Sheen would I guess when they're filming Major League, he would coordinate, like a different woman would visit him like every day and that he had somebody making sure they didn't like bump into each other.
Oh,
This
really?
is the Charlie Sheen move. So that's the move right there. Holy smokes.
Hey, when you got it, you got it.
Love that movie. But apparently Willie Mays Hayes, who's the actor who plays Willie Mays Hayes again?
Wesley Snipes.
Wesley Snipes, right. Apparently not a fast guy. Like, so that's why whenever you see him running, because he's supposed to be a speedster in this movie, he's in slow motion. They're trying to make it like to trick you into thinking that, oh, he is actually running fast, but apparently he's not a particularly athletic guy.
Oh, well, he seems, because, I mean, you remember White Man Can't Jump.
Yeah.
Apparently Woody Harrelson was a better basketball player than him. And I was reading that they actually played at like a low NCAA level when they were finished training for that movie. Like, that's how they rated them. I don't know how they do that, but that's what I read. And I read it online, so it's probably true.
Wesley Snipes had a moment. I'm glad he's in the midst of a comeback now, I think. I think the IRS tried to take him down, but here he is. He's back now. Okay, so you're on CHFI. So
Well, I was just a guest.
Okay, but you're driving a car giving out what, like bumper stickers? What are you giving out there, Sway?
We gave away film, which, you know.
You're dating yourself.
We gave away film, breakfast burritos.
Wow.
I don't even remember. Stuff like that.
Okay.
Sometimes the odd, like, hat. We would just pull over places, usually, you know, at Sky Dome before the Jays games or whatever, before or after, get people to, basically you filled out a ballot, and then if you won at the end, you'd win the car.
So, Jeff, earlier I was telling you about the ballad of Tom Henke. It just randomly came to me because we talked about, I don't even know how it came up, but yeah, Major League and the walk-up music for closers. And Aaron Davis is all, I have pointing, everybody who's listening, I've got these Variety Village CDs. You can hold them. These take you way back. But Aaron Davis is all over these CDs, like singing songs with the CHFI lights.
Is this the one, Along Came Joe with Robbie and Devo? Yeah, my buddy had this one.
You know, those are exactly what I'm talking about. Songs like that, exactly. And they were a big deal back in the day. How come stations aren't doing what? This is gone now. Like, I guess it's because Rogers owns the team. So why the hell would a Stingray or a Bell-owned station even bother with a parody or a...
Well, I will say at Boom, the OK Blue Jays Let's Play Ball, our music director Wayne Webster has a copy on vinyl of that song, of that seventh inning stretch song. Oh, you have it there? Is that what you're getting?
Of course, look, Keith Hampshire, who's an FO team, Wayne Webster is too, but I have in my hand exactly what you're talking about.
That's
So
exactly
Wayne Webster and I have, this is Keith Hampshire did vocals, and this was, 19, it wasn't released in 77, but it was an early Blue Jay single. Yeah, there it is. See?
Yeah, we would play that like 15, 16 when they were doing well.
Are you kidding me? Joey Bats and Josh Donaldson. What a time to be alive there. Holy smokes. 2015, 2016, last playoff victories in franchise history. But we can talk more about that later. Okay, so what's next after you're driving this car giving out CHFI swag?
I ended up getting a job in Alberta on air. Did that for 3+ years. Had the time of my life out there.
Where, like Edmonton? Whereabouts were you?
No, it's about 5 hours more west of Edmonton in Grand Prairie.
Okay, I'll pretend I know where that is. But okay, I know where Edmonton is. So you lived there.
Yeah, it was great. I moved from Toronto. I had no idea about the Alberta life. And it was cold when I got there, like -40, which I never really experienced, but that's a different story. But
And that was July.
It was March. But have you ever experienced cold like that?
No, my only visit to Edmonton was in like September or something. I didn't get the -40, but
you feel it in your nose. Everything freezes. Your jacket starts to crinkle. It's
remember we had that NBA All-Star weekend? I feel like that might have been the Toronto weather during that NBA All-Star game, if you remember that.
That was bad. That was like.
But this is why they have the block heaters were invented, right? Like they simply you had to plug in your car.
Well, it's funny you say that because I had my Ontario car in Alberta and I had to get a block heater installed.
Right.
Yeah.
Jeez. Okay, but you were there because that's where the work was, right? Like this is how it used to. I'm trying to like, part of this is kind of a nostalgia trip because you're younger than I am. You're not that old a gentleman. You're a young man like Cam Gordon, actually. I've done the research. But so this is a time where basically if you wanted to put in reps, maybe there wasn't an on-air position at CHFI, which of course has been a ratings juggernaut forever, but you could go to Grand Prairie, Alberta, and you could get on the air and you could maybe suck at first, but you can get better and put in your reps. And then at some point you can get yourself on the air in Toronto. Like this is the model, right?
Yeah. I mean, I went out there. The salary wasn't anything fantastic, and we did a lot of remotes to make some money. Had a lot of mayonnaise sandwiches to survive. But you know what? You make the best of it, and it was a blast. I don't regret it at all. I'm still friends with a lot of people that I worked with over there, and it was just tons of fun. Unique experience. There's stuff there that you just don't experience here.
Yeah, like -40.
Well, -40 in the summertime. The sun doesn't set till midnight. It rises at like 4 a.m. If you're a golfer, you want to go golfing at like 4 or 5 a.m, go ahead. If you're partying really hard and you go into a place at 11:30, 11:45, and you come out at like 3:45, you barely missed you missed nothing.
That's funny.
Like, just think about it. At 11:30 at night, it's what it is now. It's sunny outside, and it's awesome. Now, it's the complete opposite in the wintertime.
Right.
But it's fun.
And how long were you there?
Like 3.5 years.
So what are those winters like when you don't see sunlight?
Well, for me, I didn't really. It's kind of depressing because I did midday, so I was on 9 to 3. So the sun would rise around 8:30 and set around 3:15, and it's like, all right, well, I guess it's dark again.
Okay, but that didn't, dampen your spirits.
No,
you didn't suffer from the John Gallagher disorder, SAD, seasonal affective disorder.
Oh, you good. We're all good.
You were okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Young man, you wanted to get somewhere, and you were going to get there through Grand Prairie. Okay, so what kind of music? What's the call letters? I'm just curious.
What was it?
You don't remember?
CFGP?
CFGP.
It was 97.7 Sun FM, which is now, I think, 97.7 Rock or something like that.
Okay.
It's now owned by Rogers. It used to be owned by OK Radio Group, I think it was called.
But it is kind of amazing that there's still money to be made in Grand Prairie, Alberta, on your small station. This is an FM station, right?
Yeah.
97.7, of course it is. Okay.
Yeah, so it was us and a country station, but now there's more. Now there's more FM stations there.
Wow. Okay. Have you applied for a gig maybe to return to Grand Prairie, Alberta? We'll get to that later, maybe.
They asked me to come back. Not the station I was at. Another station asked me if I was interested in coming back, but I declined.
You looked at the Grand Prairie rate sheet there, and you said, "Holy smokes, I need to stick to the Big Smoke."
Yeah, I wanted to come back home. I mean
Yeah, your family's here.
Yeah.
Do you, by any chance, since so much time has passed and it really doesn't matter anymore, can you remember like what they would pay you to do middays in Grand Prairie, Alberta?
19.5.
And this is again late 90s, or are we in the early 2000s?
We're in the
now?
early 2000s.
Okay, so that's like Walmart greeter kind of pricing.
Oh yeah, it was great. I think my rent was $635 a month.
Okay, that's something to be said. You can live on 19.5 if you're paying that kind of rent.
A lot of remotes.
And like you said, you talked about the mayonnaise sandwiches. I distinctly remember being a poor student and eating mustard sandwiches. I remember you'd get like a Kaiser or something for 40 cents and you'd fill it up with mustard and there you go.
There's variety right there. You got your mayo sandwiches, your mustard sandwiches. We should open up a cafe somewhere.
Jeff, we'll talk about that after. I think that's a great idea. But now that I said it to you, I'm actually feeling myself craving a mustard, like a crisp, like a crunchy Kaiser filled with like just hot mustard. I'm actually craving it right now.
Don't let me stop you.
And it pairs nicely with this Great Lakes. So Jeff, I'm going to send you home with some fresh craft beer from Great Lakes. So
Awesome.
that's Grand Prairie. Grand Prairie? Why am I struggling with that? It is Grand Prairie, right?
Yes.
Okay. No relation to Prairie Oyster. Pretty good band back in the day.
And not the Grand Prairie in Texas. This Grand Prairie in Canada is with an E at the end of Grand, whereas Grand Prairie, Texas is no E.
Okay, no, good to know.
Because I know you care.
I do care because, Paris, Texas, it confused me for a long time, but
Yeah.
it's a whole different place. All right, so how do you get yourself out of Grand Prairie, Alberta? What comes next?
Timmins, Ontario. Got a job at a Rogers station. They had a rock station and an Easy Rock. Easy Rock actually was the similar logo as 97.3 here in Toronto. And I started out on the rock station doing afternoons, and then I think they put me in mornings, and then they're like, oh, well, the Easy Rock station isn't, the mornings wasn't doing as well, so they flipped me over to mornings on the Easy Rock station.
Very impressive because we just talked about Erin Davis, and here in Toronto, of course, she was famously fired from her CHFI morning show gig. This was a shocking development, and she ended up on Easy Rock, and then she kind of rebuilt herself, and eventually with Mike Cooper there, and then she came back for big bucks, so she kind of rewrote her own story.
Yeah.
So Easy Rock is in your story. And of course, the tragically hip song, My Music at Work, is absolutely inspired by posters or I guess billboards in the city for 97.3 Easy Rock.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because that was the slogan was My Music at Work. And then Gord, I guess, saw it and he wrote My Music at Work.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm up
I didn't
now
know that.
3-1, Jeff. This is going well. Okay, so
I gotta reach deep in my pockets for some
do it,
stuff
man.
here.
Do it. Even if it's just, hey, Cam Gordon went 0 for 3 in a key playoff game or something. That would be great to hear too.
I'm sure he did, but I don't remember.
All right. And did you shoplift at Sluggers? That's the big question. Did
No,
you ever
I-
shoplift at Sluggers?
No, I'm not much of a shoplifter.
No shoplifting experience.
Well, everything was behind the glass, right? The cards that I wanted.
Well, that's true.
But I will say that Jeff and I, sometimes we would open up the packages, we would keep the gum, take out the good cards, and then iron back the packages and try and sell them to other
wow.
kids in the...
in my books, that's worse than shoplifting. Okay?
Yeah.
Get the hell out of my basement. You disgust me.
You know what? We did that, but we never sold any packs. People were smarter than that.
See, the real talk already spilling out. Okay, so I'm curious about Timmins versus Grand Prairie. Like, is this like a big city now to you that you're in Timmins?
No. Timmins is, I think it's a little bit smaller than Grand Prairie.
I would have lost a bet there.
Yeah. It's honestly, it's night and day. It's night and day. Timmins, I had a great time. It's all how you make it. I met a bunch of people there that were in the same boat as I was, and it was like, let's just do our time and figure it out. But yeah, some of my best friends are, again, we still hang out, we still talk.
So these are people you met at the radio station in Timmins.
Yeah, they've all gone on with careers in radio elsewhere, and yeah. So
Anyone
it was a great.
I've heard of?
No, probably not. But
Okay.
some good people.
All right, good. No, sounds good. So I've given you the fresh craft beer, and I'm just going to let you know, Jeff, I have in my freezer right now a large meat lasagna from Palma Pasta. Do you enjoy lasagna?
Absolutely.
Okay, you're going home. If you didn't know you'd be going home with fresh craft beer and lasagna, did you?
Hey, that's a perfect gift. Couldn't ask for anything more.
But if I see you stealing my Blue Jay, those very rare Stephanie Wilkinson gifted Blue Jay compilations, I'll say you did shoplift, Jeff. It was in my basement. You shoplifted.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Okay. Thank you to Palma Pasta. They're hosting us. Everybody listening is invited November 30th from noon to 3 p.m. at Palma's Kitchen. That's in Mississauga. Google it. Palma's Kitchen. Come on out because they'll feed you, and Great Lakes Brewery will provide you with a can of fresh craft beer, and we're going to record at Palma's Kitchen. So everyone's invited. Jeff, you should come out and then be reunited with Cam Gordon.
He's coming?
He's going to be there. You should come out. November 30th. I'm putting you on the spot now. What are you doing at noon on November 30th?
I do not know.
You're at Palma's Kitchen, buddy. What neighborhood do you live in now?
Danforth Village.
Okay, well, it's a little bit of a trek across the city, but it's worth the drive, as we say. Screw Acton. It's worth the drive to. I dropped that reference on a young woman, younger than us, but she's a podcast aficionado, and we were talking just a couple of weeks ago. Katie, her name is, except she spells Katie with 2 T's, the way I feel Spindel needs 2 L's. But who am I to judge? But anyway, Katie's here, quite young, and I referenced Milton, Ontario came up, and then I said something about, is that near Acton? And then I said, well, it's worth the drive. And this reference went right over her head. It's worth the drive to Acton. The kids today don't get this reference.
The old Hyde House.
Yes, the old Hyde House, exactly.
It's worth the drive to Acton.
So do you think you got to be like over 35 to get that reference? Where's the demarcation point for worth the drive to Acton?
There's a lot of stuff that you can throw out where kids just don't know. Consumers distributing. I was talking to... I would say she was about 16 at the time, and this would have been, I would say, maybe 2008, and she didn't understand that when you used to order pizza, it didn't come with dipping sauce.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like, now it sounds so minor,
well, it's
but
still extra, right? Like your default order, they say, do you want dipping sauce? But it's like whatever, $1.50 or whatever for the dipping sauce. Like, it's still defaults to no dipping sauce. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. But I'm just saying, like, back in the day, there was no, far as I know, you ordered pizza, you got the pizza. Like, that was it. There was no dipping sauce.
Wait till this person finds out. We had to phone to order that pizza to get delivery. Like, we had to phone. There was no app.
Remember the Star phone?
Of course I remember the smart Star phone. I used to get sports results. There was like sort of numbers, and I remember the one for getting my sports scores. I would call in and get the sports scores.
And the movie times?
Why don't you tell me the name of the movie you want to see, Jeff? Okay, look at us. This is like the Gen X nostalgia here. Okay, so I still have you in Timmins. I just want to get all the gifts out of the way because you got the lasagna and the beer, but there's a speaker there. That's a wireless speaker courtesy of Moneris. It's a high-quality Bluetooth speaker, Jeff, and you have one promise you have to make me in order to have that speaker. You have to subscribe and listen to Yes, We Are Open, an award-winning podcast from Moneris hosted by Al Grego. But once you've listened to season 7, which is dropping now, you can listen to anything you want, man. Just listen to your jams. You're going to love that speaker.
You have my word.
Okay, I'm going to be quizzing you, buddy. I'm going to be calling you up and go, when Al Grego went to Winnipeg and he talked to blah, 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 because I believe Al goes to Winnipeg, so he doesn't get to Timmins or Grand Prairie, but he's going to be in Winnipeg for this season 7, so I'm super excited about it. And last but not least, on the gift front, there should be a measuring tape somewhere. Do you have a green? Yep, there you go. Courtesy of Ridley Funeral Home.
Perfect.
So you can measure. What are you going to measure, Jeff? What do you want to measure?
I'm probably going to measure my waist because I need to go on a diet and I want to know how much I've put on. And then I might get a little angry.
All right, well, I'm going to tell you right now, because I'm knowing Cam's age, I can now, cleverly decipher your age. And many guys your age I see now are carrying a big pot belly. Have you noticed this? Like a beer gut.
Yeah.
You don't have one.
I'm hiding it. I'm hiding it.
Under that hoodie?
Yeah.
That Blue Jays hoodie?
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, no, Now, no one's as fit as Cam Gordon. I don't think he eats.
I haven't seen him in years. I think he's
Like a popsicle.
he's. I remember him. I think he's a little bit taller than I am. Not too much.
Yeah, he's taller.
But yeah. If
Lift that shirt. Can I see? What are we hiding under there?
really.
No, just fucking with you. Okay. All right. So, what happens? You get the call in Timmins. What's going on? Are you applying to every job available in the Big Smoke here? I need to know what happens next for Jeff Spindel.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I wanted to get even closer to Toronto, and people who I met in Timmins. One girl who I met, she ended up getting a job in Barrie, and there was an opening at the chorus station in Barrie, Che 93.1. And yeah, I got a job. I got a job in Barrie, which was fun because I got to work with her, and we were good friends in Timmins. Still friends now.
What's her name?
Victoria Madiash.
I know this name.
She does fantasy.
You know where I know her from? West End Phoenix. Do you know this is a newspaper in the Dave Bedini's behind this, the guy from the Rio Statics.
Okay.
I know her through that. Yeah, I absolutely, and maybe she did some 1010 something.
Yeah.
I know this person. I've met her. I think Tyler Campbell, shout out to VP of Sales. I believe he was with me. I was his +1 at some West End Phoenix event, and she was there. So you're buds with her. Yeah, quite liked her.
Yeah. She does stuff with ESPN fantasy hockey, so she's very busy right now. She's got a podcast as well, and yeah, she helped me get the job in Barrie.
You never know how small the world it is till you spit out that name that you're going to assume I don't know, and I'm like, I've met that woman.
You know what's interesting is that to rewind a little bit to my to my radio class in Humber, our teacher Jerry Shawman. He tells everybody to stand up, and there's, let's say, 53 of us. I don't remember what it was, but it wasn't a big amount.
Yeah.
He tells us all to stand up, and then he says, look to your left, look to your right, look in front of you, look behind you. And then he says, never burn any bridges, because one day this person could be your boss.
Good advice.
And you know what the funny thing is? My former boss from a month ago.
Oh, to be discussed, absolutely.
Was in my class.
And who is that?
Josie. Josie, who's the program director at Hot 89.9.
Okay, does Josie have a last name?
Fenich.
Okay. Shout out to Murray, my plumber. He's got the same last name. Okay. All right. So something goes down about a month ago. We're going to get to that. Okay. So you're in Barrie now. That's pretty damn close. You know, that's where Kevin Frankish started, right? Like you're just down. That's the 400. You're just a bit north of here. I used to go to all those concerts at Molson Park in Barrie, all those Edge Fests, Worth the Drive. I used to park at the Walmart and then walk over. It was great times. The Dust Bowl, I saw Pearl Jam in 98 there. It's still one of my favorite concerts of all time, was Pearl Jam 98 at Molson Park in Barrie. So shout out to Barrie. What are you doing exactly on Barrie, and then what happens next?
I was doing afternoon drive with Vicky. So we did the afternoon drive show. Ratings were doing pretty good. But yeah, so my former PD, Troy McCallum, he used to work at Barrie at the same station, and he was living there, and bumped into him a couple of times, and yeah, I was talking to him and also with CHFI, and CHFI actually put me on the air to do an audition. This would have been, I don't know, 2009, 2010. They ended up giving the job to Daryl Henry.
FOTM Daryl Henry, who's no longer there, sadly.
Yeah, Julie Adam was the boss at the time, and she was like, "Hey, listen, you're sounding good, you're good, and blah blah blah, but we're just gonna give it to a known name," and that was Daryl Henry, and I totally got it. And then I don't know the exact timeline, but maybe like 2 weeks later, Troy's like, "Hey, why don't you go on overnight at Boom?" Went on from like 2 to 4 in the morning. And yeah, fast forward a couple of weeks, they put me on weekends.
Very cool. So now you're on in Toronto at Boom. Boom, of course, was Easy Rock before it rebranded to Boom. Shout out to Humble Howard from Humble and Fred, because he was there when it flipped to Boom from Easy Rock. He was the morning show host with Colleen Rushholm, who was a longtime co-host of the aforementioned Stu Jeffries. And shout out to Good Rockin' Tonight. But you're now at Boom. So how does it feel to get this gig at Boom? You're ready to rock here.
It was great. I mean, it was a foot in the door. I left a full-time gig with benefits to do part-time work on the weekend. It was a little intimidating, to be honest with you, because like you said, Humble, Colleen, May, KJ, Stu, they're all there. And here I am kind of, not a Toronto guy, not a Toronto radio guy at that moment, right. But it was nice. I mean, they were all nice people.
That's a good crew, because I've met them all, and that is a solid crew. There's no assholes there.
No, not one, not even a little. There's no
so
ego.
Howard wasn't even a little bit of an asshole to you, because he's had his moments.
No, not at all. Not at all. We didn't chat that much because I was more on the weekends. I think I operated one of his remotes, but I mean that was pretty much it. I didn't really talk to Humble or Colleen as much.
Colleen's a sweetheart, and Colleen is waiting for an NDA to expire before she comes back to Toronto Mike. But that should be fascinating. I always like this woman, and she's been muscled out of this industry, and we're going to get to all this in a minute, because now that we have you at Boom, I'm going to play just a little taste of how you sounded on Boom. You ready for this?
How do you even have this?
Well, I just have a little bit. It's actually tough to find. You're a tough guy to find, but I do have a little bit. So let's listen. You're talking to FOTM Andy Kim here. Let's listen.
Boom 97.3, the Eagles, Best of My Love. I'm Jeff Spindel on Andy Kim. It looks like you wanted to break out into song there.
I love everything you're doing here. I love this music so much. It takes me not only back in time, but it made me realize how great records were made and great songs were written, and it's just awesome. So it's great to be here.
You appreciate the hissing and the popping.
You can't have a hit without the hiss.
All right, we got a police tune coming up for you as well. But first, we're going to talk about Wednesday, December 10th, the big show at the Mod Club.
I'm excited about it. I tell you what, this is our 10th anniversary.
I'll bring it down. There's a big promotion from Andy Kim and the Mod Club, of course, run by Mark Holmes from Platinum Blonde, who came up 2 episodes ago on Toronto Mike because Leona Boyd was my guest, and she sang on, or maybe she just played guitar, actually, now I think about it, on Tears Are Not Enough. And Mark Holmes famously arrived at the recording of the charity single Tears Are Not Enough in a stretched limousine, which was an interesting look as they raised money for famine relief. Even the great Joni Mitchell and Neil Young, they took a cab that day. Breaking news, and I will not credit this to anyone specifically. I have to keep this person's identity anonymous, but I have been told that Timmins is where you'll now find the woman who played Stephanie Kay. Did you watch Degrassi?
Degrassi?
All the way with Stephanie Kay, which was the first episode of Degrassi Junior High. The legend, Nicole Stoffman, she now works as a newspaper reporter in Timmins, Ontario.
Oh, wow.
That's like not even a fun fact. I feel like that's more of a mind blow, Jeff.
Yeah, wow. I did not know that.
Okay, I did not know that. But now you know by listening in your headphones how good you sounded on Boom. That you sound like a radio guy.
You're too kind. That was I
am too kind.
That was like a Turntable Tuesday. A lot of people don't believe that we played vinyl. I can't tell you how many calls we get. You guys don't play vinyl. And we do.
You do,
because
you would.
They do.
Well, you used to, and then they told you to stop doing that. Stop doing that. Why is that? Why not just go digital? Is it that you want some hisses and pops in there?
It just makes it unique. I remember I was playing a 45 of American Pie, and you play the first 4 and plus minutes on one side, and the next was on the other side. And I remember I'm like, I went on the air, and I'm like, sorry, this is vinyl. I got to flip it. Hang on. Flipped it, continued the song, and went on with it. But it's just one of those, it brings back memories of maybe when you were growing up and you had your milk crates and you had all your albums. I don't know about you, but I used to play hockey in the basement with a buddy of mine. We would put albums on. Next thing you know, the pucks or the balls would hit the turntable, scratch it. Can't tell you how many times that happened.
No, I was a big top 40 guy. Well, most kids are, I guess. You're a top 40 guy. And I used to buy the 45 singles of all the songs I loved. Like, I'd walk to my local Sam's because I could get there easy. It was at Jane and Bloor. And I would pick up, I remember I want this Madonna one. I loved that damn cover that George Harrison did, Got My Mind Set on You. It's like, I had that 45. I used to play a lot of vinyl, but today I get gifted vinyl all the time. And there's nothing in this home right now that can play vinyl.
That's the problem. I found some old tapes, some old air checks and just some old tapes, like I said to you earlier when I was DJing. Anyway, long story short, I had to borrow my my dad's car. He's got a 2004 Nissan Pathfinder.
Woo!
And he's got a tape player in there, and it
because-
still works.
I have that. I have.
Oh, was that a tape player?
That's a tape player,
yeah.
and actually, I can play tapes because I was trying to rip a bunch of old Humble and Fred episodes to MP3 because I produced their show and we we're going to use it for something or other. And I have that connected to the board here, so I can easily digitize a cassette. It's the vinyl where I've got no hardware in this home right now. But here, a little bit more of you on Boom before we get into that. Here is, I don't know, 20, maybe 10 seconds. Here we go.
But yeah, these bring back memories. I used to record. I used to sit in front of the stereo and have it on, record, pause, and play. And every time a song came on, I was clicking, pressing record. Let's go with this one.
So there's a little taste of what we're talking about here. The nostalgia, you growing up, it's, you're playing your vinyl and you're copying songs off the radio like we all did.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. I don't even remember doing that.
It's like a mixtape thing on YouTube. So it's tough to find. I go to YouTube and I just I'm going to find some Jeff Spindel. I thought it'd be easier than it was, but I just played basically everything I found. But that was like a mixtape compilation. KJ's talking on it. Stu Jeffries is on there. May Potts is on there, and you're on there.
Yeah, we used to do little snippets, I guess you could say.
There you go. I extracted all the good Jeffiness out of that one.
Yeah.
So, all right, now you're at Boom. You were there for over 14 years.
Yeah, quite a while.
That is a long time. So you're there and you were coast to coast, right? Like you weren't just on in Toronto. At some point you became, I guess at some point you went like syndicated across the Stingray radio network.
Yeah, so I did 10 years. I was doing the evening show. And then they asked me if I would, actually the way they worded it was kind of funny. They're like, hey, do you want to see your kids again? Because when you do evenings, I mean, think about it. Your kids are at school.
Yeah.
They come home.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, I got to go to work. So I thought that was kind of funny the way they worded it. So I'm like, yeah, sure, I'd love to see my
How many kids do you have?
I've got 3.
Good for you, man.
Thank you. So after about 10 years or so of doing evenings, I did actually when COVID started, like 2020, March of 2020. I recorded shows from coast to coast on like the Classic Hits Network. They have a Breeze Network. There's a Rock Network. And yeah, I would do that. But then part of my gig was also I filled in for Stu in the morning and I filled in for KJ in the afternoon. So that was part of my contract, I guess you could say.
Quick controversial point on KJ. So when I grew up listening to Top 40 radio on 680 CFTR, he was Chris James. And on Boom, he's KJ. Shouldn't he stick with the branding by which all us oldies knew him by?
He told me the story, and I'm trying to remember. I think, what was it? Oh, I'm going to screw this up. I think he always wanted to be KJ, but there was a program director who wanted him to go by Chris James. I think that's it. It's something like that.
So essentially now he's living his best life as he always wanted to be known. So he was only Chris James because some PD interfered and told him you're Chris James.
Sure, I guess you could say that.
Just to clarify.
In true KJ form, I think he was okay with Chris James, and I think he's okay with KJ. He just wants to be on the air, loves what he does, and yeah.
And he's like May Potts, of course, was from CFNY, and we've had her on and had chats with her. But these connections to 680 CFDR, it's kind of awesome that he's at Boom there. So 14 years at Boom. The last 4 years, you're coast to coast on the Stingray radio network. What the heck happened? I'll read you a couple of notes that came in. Gord Lambert, I think that's how you'd say it. He says, please tell him, Gord Lambert, and it could be Lambert, okay? I've tried to make this as French as I can, but Gord Lambert.
Yeah, he's a listener. He's a Boom listener. I know that name.
He says, Gord says hi and wishes you all the best. Gord's missing your voice on Boom. As many are, because Kevin in Alberta wrote in to say he's missing your voice. I got all these notes from people that miss your voice. So please, why the hell do we no longer hear your voice on Boom 97.3 and across the Stingray radio network?
They made a decision to downsize, and I unfortunately was let go. I get it. Obviously it sucks. I've been in the industry for 25 years. I've never been fired, never been laid off. This was a first for me. It sucks. I mean, anybody would say that. But hey, it is what it is. You got to move on, and we'll see what we can do.
Well, hey, I'm sorry it happened to you, but I don't know if I've ever had. Well, maybe. Oh, even May Potts. I feel maybe was she fired at Chum? I'm trying to remember now if May Potts has ever experienced this.
I don't know where she was let go from.
You know where
but
she was? I
has-
just remembered Mojo. Okay, here's what happened. She decided to leave CFNY for Mojo Radio, which was in the same building, the same company at Chorus. And that's what Humble and Fred did too. They left mornings at 102.1 and they went to Mojo Radio and we're the morning show there. And then that's when Dean Blundell comes from Windsor and blah, blah, blah. But May Potts didn't work out on Mojo. Like she was so beloved on CFNY 102.1 and then on Mojo, it just didn't work. And I believe she was let go from Mojo Radio. So if May Potts can get fired, Jeff Spindel can get fired.
You know, the thing with radio is everybody says this, you haven't had a radio career until you get fired or until you get laid off or whatever. So it took me 25 years. So be it.
And how are you holding up? This was about a month ago. When did you get the tap on the shoulder?
September 3rd.
Okay, so it's just a
First
little
day
over
of
a
school.
month. So the Tuesday.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay, so
Yeah.
like, if I may, I'm going to pry, and you can tell me if it's none of my business, but do you get called in a room by your boss and there's some HR person with a portfolio binder? What's going on in there?
No, I got an email. So Josie, who is the national talent director, I think is her title, as well as the
At
program
Stingray?
director at Hot 89.9. She was like my voice tracking boss, let's call it. And then Troy was my Boom 97.3 boss.
Right.
Anyway, I got a note from her saying, hey, we need to chat. And I said, do you want to do phone or by video on Microsoft Teams or whatever? She said, let's set up a time, yada, yada, yada. And then, I got the video call, the Zoom call, the Teams call, whatever you want to call
Were
it.
you blindsided or were you smelling it possibly coming? Or did this just, oh, I didn't see that coming?
I was hoping it was for something else, but I had an idea. I had a hunch.
Well, that's better because you can brace yourself a bit if you think that this might be it. Because, you know, a lot of times people will tell you, this happened to Humble Howard at Boom actually. But, you know, you're kind of, you know it's coming, and then you get the, hey, we need to have a talk, or you get called into a room, or can we have a Zoom, or whatever the hell it is. And you kind of go into it under the assumption that you're going to get whacked. And then if you're not whacked, that's relieving to know that I got a bit more time left. But if you get blindsided, sometimes that can just wreck a guy.
Yeah, I mean, it still sucks. Don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, it's awful. It was a horrible feeling. The timing is brutal because my wife has been laid off for a while as well, so that just sucks too.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. You know, I can sit here and just, you know, cry about it, or I can just, you know, move on and try to make the best of the situation. I'm going to, you know, reach out to some radio stations and see what we can do. And then, yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens.
So have you been doing that? Have you been, I guess you've been checking in with different program directors across this country? Like how do things look only a month into this? How are things looking?
I haven't really tried. I've had some people from other radio stations reach out, but I haven't really tried. And the reason why is my lawyer and the Stingray lawyers were working out stuff. And once that's all signed and dealt with, I'm gonna you know, move on and see what I can do. The other thing is now we're in a fall ratings period. Nobody usually gets hired or fired during this time, and then once that rating period ends, you now have Christmas. Nobody usually gets hired or fired around that time as well. So maybe I'm looking January, February. I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing that out there. But I mean, in a perfect world, I work in Toronto radio again.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for too, that you get back on Toronto radio because you sound great and you belong on radio. But are you aware of the shrinking pie that is our radio landscape?
I've heard of it, yeah.
Like, have you considered maybe the next chapter of Jeff Spindel's professional life is in a different space, a different industry? Like, is this something you're thinking about these days, or are you really just like licking your wounds, waiting till the legal stuff is figured out, and then you'll pick yourself off the mat and get back in the game?
I've thought about it. My problem is that this is my skill. This is what I went to school for. I didn't go to school for other, you know.
Yeah, but your skill, Jeff, is communication.
Yeah, but again, let's go back to what you said. I think right now I'm just in the licking wound stage.
Yeah,
I we'll have to see what happens. The plan is to be back on Toronto radio. Fingers crossed. Who knows?
No, that's the thing. That's probably the scariest part, right? Is who knows? You don't know. You don't know what's next. Like you don't know where that next paycheck comes from or what it looks like, and that's an uneasy feeling. So I'm just hoping you're holding up okay. You got a good support system, and that you realize that this is the end of a job. You were a number at some big stingray company, and then you'll find something to pay the bills with sooner rather than later.
You know, I just want to say one thing. I have a personal Facebook page that I've basically made public anyway, and then I have another Facebook page, and it's just Jeff Spindel on the radio. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
And the people that have made comments on the radio page, these are people who I don't know. I just don't know them. Some of them are saying where they're from. The amount of calls, or I shouldn't say calls, but like messages via Facebook through this page that I have received and then publicly on the wall, so to speak, have been absolutely phenomenal. It's been appreciated, and it's just really nice because you feel like you've one person wrote, "Oh, you helped me out during the pandemic," and just you hear stuff like that, and you're like, you know what? Thank you. I appreciate you reaching out, and I'm glad that my show could help you in some sort of way.
I like a friendly voice with the bringing the fun facts and the great music and everything.
That was my thing on Boom, and you could ask any of them. I mean, even Matt's another one. They called us phone whores because we were always getting calls, talking to people, making these friendships with these listeners. Just, people would call and feel like they were your buddy. And the next, Gord is one of them. Gord Lambert. I always pronounced it Lambert. Maybe he
what? I just decided this guy's from like sort of like
I think he's
Gordy,
from Oshawa.
Levesque. He's from Oshawa. Okay, so Lambert.
I think he drives truck.
Do you remember the Guy Hebert, and you got Guy Hebert?
goalie?
There was wasn't there the quarterback Guy Hebert, but it was Guy Hebert. Do you have any recollection of this?
Oh yeah, well
So it's
there was also a basketball player. His last name, I'm just gonna spell it, Benoit, where we say it as Benoit, but in the States they called him Benoit.
They
Wasn't
also,
there a guy?
yeah, you're right, and absolutely. And here we'd say, hey man, I'll meet you in the foyer. No American's gonna fucking meet you in the foyer, right? They'll punch you out before they meet you in the foyer. They're gonna meet you in the foyer.
Exactly.
Right? It's like, and then they're gonna say, Toronto Mike, take your Chesterfield and stick it up your ass.
I don't think I've ever used the word Chesterfield, but I know what you're talking about.
Good point.
Wasn't there the Chesterfield shop?
I grew up with Chesterfield and couch being like synonyms. Like, and I now that I'm talking to you, they may be different things. Like maybe you need wooden armrests or something to be a Chesterfield, but that term was around anyways when I was growing up. Chesterfield. Well,
it's kind of like some people porch, veranda, deck, balcony.
Right.
You can throw that in there too, maybe.
You know what? I actually like this game. It's like the different names for different things. And my wife. So my wife she works for a bank, and someone puts on Teams. Speaking of Teams, but do you get like PTSD now when you think of that Teams? Because I worked for a German software company, and I had a similar tap on the shoulder that you had, but I got mine in 2018, so I know exactly what you're going through. Like, I'm here for you, man. I know exactly what you're going through. But that place, because they were all in Germany, and I was here by my lonesome, it was all Skype. And absolutely at some point the sound, and I don't even have it installed on anything anymore, because the sound of the Skype ring gives me PTSD, I think, because some crazy German is going to ask for something crazy. No offense to the Germans listening, but these particular Germans might have been crazy. Okay, not all Germans are crazy. There's some lovely Germans. Shout out to Rob Pruce, who I'll see on Friday at 8 o'clock for toast. But okay, so Chesterfield. Okay, but where I'm going with this is my wife got this Teams thing at work that said, "Oh, today is National or maybe International Cinnamon Roll Day." And then we ended up at IKEA to get cinnamon rolls, and then became the discussion: cinnamon rolls versus cinnamon buns. I should have recorded it. This is a crazy, wild conversation on what is the difference between a cinnamon roll and a cinnamon bun. There was heavy research involved. There was passionate thoughts on the subject. Like who cares except you and I, right, Jeff? Cinnamon roll versus cinnamon bun.
So what is the difference between a cinnamon roll and a cinnamon bun?
It's like the roll is literally like you take like a pastry and you roll it. I know it's great. So it's rolled and twist. You know how you can see it twisted. You can almost unroll it. Like if
Yeah.
you ever seen one of those. Whereas a bun is a bun, but it's very hazy, and I'd rather not revisit it all. But there is a difference apparently between a cinnamon roll and a cinnamon bun. But in my entire life, I've used these terms interchangeably.
Do they still have the Cinnabuns at the food court in the mall beside the Orange Julius?
Dude, they probably do, and I can tell you when I used to go to Islington Station for high school, 'cause, that's where Michael Power was, and you know what? I might have be conflating my memories, but I have a memory of a Cinnabons being in the station, and it might not be the Islington Station now that I think of it, but it could be. But I just have this memory of always going to this certain subway station where it just smelled like Cinnabons. It was ridiculous, delicious smell.
Oh, it's fantastic.
There should be cologne, like Cinnabon cologne. Right?
There probably is.
And
It just might not be called that.
Now you're a married guy,
Maybe
right?
it's a cinnamon
You're
twist.
a married guy. Are you a married guy?
Yes.
Okay. So, for all you unmarried people looking to meet up, the Cinnabon smell is irresistible. You will have your preferred gender all over you if you use Cinnabon cologne.
I wish I knew this.
Well, I just realized it right now. All right, Jeff, that's shitty what happened to you. And it sounds like you've got a lawyer making sure they don't screw with your severance here. And hopefully that's resolved soon, because you were there 14 years, and I don't know I won't pry in what is full-time and what is part-time and all that crap that matters when they come to crunch this freaking number. But they always offer you less than you're entitled to. This is sort of a general rule. So I hope you're not taken advantage of here.
Nope, so far so good. We're all sitting pretty.
Okay, good. There is a name of somebody who dropped by, and I had a lovely conversation with her, and I believe she would be somebody you worked with, but Stacy Thompson.
Yeah, I know Stacy.
Okay, so what was your professional relationship like with Stacy?
Stacy, I think I trained her back when we were on the second floor. And I remember we met because I think she was doing some personal training at the time.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, she got hired on. She did weekends and stuff. But her and I, sometimes if there was ever kind of any carryover, if, she was in for May or I don't know, whoever, we would just chat and chat and chat and chat. And she's been really nice. She's reached out to me a whole bunch of times over this last little while.
Good.
And yeah, she's been great.
I mean, there's some great radio people that have been victims of cost cutting. Like it's almost like you're just a dollar figure on some spreadsheet, and it's like, hey, we can get that down to whatever if we just get rid of that massive Jeff Spindel salaries. So you're just victim of cost cutting. It's just a shitty thing that happens to many a great broadcaster.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, that's the way it is. But like I said earlier, just gotta, as my buddy KJ would say, you just gotta keep on keeping on.
Keep on keeping on. Okay, my last episode of Toronto Mike. Let me just tell you the story about this and get your thoughts on this, because it was an FOTM named Jesse Hirsch. I don't know if you know this name, but he's been on CBC Radio. He's a good writer, and he's very interested in all things tech. And he basically fed a couple of episodes of Toronto Mike. Specifically, he fed these 2 FOTM cast episodes, which happened to feature your old buddy Cam Gordon, who you haven't seen in a while, but you might see at TMLX 17 on November 30th at Palma's Kitchen. I feel like that's the place for the reunion, okay?
I feel it, yeah.
And another reason, before I get back to this episode Jesse Hirsch helped me with, I will say that because I think your skills of communication are not restricted simply to, radio, I feel like somebody like Cam Gordon is a good networking person, because Cam Gordon is a communications guy, and he's currently at Seneca College doing communications, but he's very tapped into this communications world. I feel like you, Jeff, if radio doesn't want you because they're pinching pennies and sunsetting, I think there is a future for you in the world of communications for companies and doing kind of what Cam Gordon does.
I'm open to anything.
Okay, well, no, I'm just saying, forget LinkedIn, okay? Shout out to Elvis.
I don't have a LinkedIn. I don't have a resume. I don't
Well,
have a demo
you
tape.
gotta start somewhere, Jeff. Come on, start with a LinkedIn profile.
Yeah.
That's actually a good idea, because when I was even trying to find your bio, that's why we walked through your career so slowly. It's not like I can Google Jeff Spindel bio or whatever. Usually I end up on a LinkedIn page and I'm like, oh, he was in Grand Prairie for a spell, and then he was in Timmins, and then he was in Barrie. Yeah, start there and then have a heart-to-heart. He said such kind words about you with Cam Gordon, because Cam Gordon was fired from Twitter Canada. I feel like this is public, right, Cam? So Cam was famously, because Musk fired everybody practically in that Twitter Canada office that day. So Cam Gordon was fired from Twitter. He ended up at Rogers, and then he left Rogers for the Seneca gig. But he's very dialed in with the industry and the openings and stuff. And I'm just saying, radio is not the be-all, end-all for a young man like Jeff Spindel.
Yeah, no, I definitely got to reach out to that guy. It'd be nice. Actually, we were in touch, I don't know, maybe 2-3 years ago. He was helping me out with something on Twitter or whatever. And we were talking about how our dad should meet up and have a beer and talk about the old baseball coaching, when we were 14, 15 or however old we were.
Right. Well, we're going to reconnect you at, maybe we'll do it on the air. TMLX, I'm trying to do the math because there's one before that, but TMLX 17, we're going to get you there. By the way, you get in that Teams meeting where they're like, your services are no longer required. I'm reminded on the live stream about my buddy Mark Hebscher's story. He worked at CHCH, and they basically pulled this stunt. It's really awful what they did, but they decided to declare bankruptcy, and then, like, in the footprint there, from the ashes of this bankruptcy would rise a new numbered company and rehire people at a smaller rate. So you had two rooms. You had a room of people who were like, no severance because we're bankrupt, loser. Get out of here, and we're not even going to offer you a new job. Just go home. And then you had a room of people like, oh, you're fired, but we have a job offer for you to work at this is CHCH in Hamilton, to work at this new company. It's not CHCH. It's like got a new number, name, thing, man. We're doing the same shit in the same place and with the same people, but it's a different company. Trust us, wink, wink. Like, it's so greasy. And go ahead.
Didn't CHCH used to broadcast Leaf games, and Paul Hendrick was the host? Remember they switched from
100%.
CHCH to On TV?
Of course I do.
Is that what you're talking about?
Well, that's the place, but this is after the On nonsense. But that's what I think of when I think of CHCH is a Tiny Talent Time was a big CHCH production. But here's what else I think of: hilarious House of Frightenstein. Do you remember
was
this?
the best.
Yeah, Billy Van.
That was the best.
And you mentioned the Leaf games, of course. Paul Hendrick, who's been here, he's a sweetheart of a guy, actually. But I remember the Leaf games, but also Maple Leaf Wrestling with Billy Red Lions.
I remember that one.
Don't you dare miss it.
Remember the Maple Leaf Gardens? They had that, instead of walking on the floor, they had like that podium that led up to the ring with King Kong Bundy and what's his name? Joe Murdo.
There was
George I was watching. I looked at that.
That's from Stu Stone.
I had that guy.
Stu Stone gave me this.
Oh, really?
Maybe this is yours. Did Stu steal yours and he gave it to me?
He's a bit of a thief.
He didn't have to. Well, maybe he did.
I still have my wrestling figures. I've got Hillbilly Jim, Paul Orndorff, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
Wow.
I've got all of them.
Paul Orndorff, I was at that big CNE day when, what would they call it? The main event or whatever they called it. And he...
Big John Studd, I think.
Remember the Killer Bees would wear masks?
Yeah. Stu was heavy into the wrestling.
He does.
Really?
Well, he does Dark Side of the Ring. He literally goes on the road and talks to he'll talk to I don't know, Jake the Snake Roberts or something in some old dark motel room. And it'll be an episode of Vice's Dark Side of the Ring. Like, he's working with Vice on that right now. Yeah. You should show up at this this premiere tomorrow night. This is his new movie, Don't Fuck with Ghosts. Jeez, now I'm trying to remember how the hell I got here, Jeff. Does this ever happen to you on Boom? They don't let you talk long enough.
You're
to get
talking
lost.
about Mark Hebscher.
Mark Hebscher, thank you. So Mark Hebscher finds out he's supposed to be in this room, and he's a bit late to it or something. So Hebsy goes in this room, and this is the room where they tell you, oh, you don't have a job, but sign this paper and you can come back tomorrow. It's a new job. That's exactly what you were doing. Yeah, the rate's, I'll make it up. The rate's like 33% less or whatever, but you still have a job, which is, it's better to have something while you look for something than to have nothing, because we're not giving you severance. So Hebsy's like, oh, this sucks, but at least I have a job while I go figure out what's next or whatever. And then his boss comes up to him and goes, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, I was late, but I'm here now. He's like, you're in the wrong room.
Oh, no.
You're supposed to be in that room where we said, get the fuck out of here. Your services are no longer required, and we're not paying you a penny in severance because we just declared bankruptcy. You're in the wrong room. It was the best story. He crashed one of my episodes of David Schultz just to tell this story. But that to me is the story of like the worst shoulder tap. So at least you have a company that owes you severance. The worst is when they hide behind some bullshit bankruptcy or whatever, and they're like, "We're not giving you a penny." So hopefully you get something out of that.
Yeah, no, I mean that would suck, but no, things are all good on my end with that.
Okay, no further discussion on that. Stick to this last episode. So Jesse Hirsch, that's where I was. This is fun, right? Shout out to Great Lakes Beer. It only takes one. So Jesse Hirsch is playing around with Google's new artificial intelligence software. The name eludes me right now. But he basically feeds it 2 episodes of Toronto Mic'd, FOTM cast episodes. There's actually a new one next week. But so Google AI sucks in these 2 episodes of Toronto Mic'd and then spits out this fake, like 2 people chatting about Toronto Mic'd basically for like 15 minutes. And it's all AI. No humans involved in this. They suck in this and they spit this out. And I dropped it in the Toronto Mic'd feed yesterday, like just because Jesse Hirsch shared it with me, and I thought, yeah, they sound like humans talking. They sound a lot like Dax Shepard and his co-host of that podcast that Dax Shepard has. So they sound pretty real, but you can hear, and they, what they're saying is kind of close, but not right. Like it sounds like it needs a human editor. It sounds a bit like AI wrote it, and of course AI did write it. And I sort of dropped it in as like the worst podcast, because I found it completely lacked any humanity, and I don't want to be, like, that's it. There's no sequel. Every episode of Toronto Mic'd will be a human being talking to a human being. You're a human being, Jeff, right?
I think so, yeah.
Just tear your skin so it bleeds. I need to know there's no circuits under, no circuit board. But all this is to say, any fear from you as a 20-plus year radio guy that AI is going to gobble up all these on-air jobs?
I'd be lying if I didn't say that some radio people haven't talked about it. I remember there was a lady in like Nashville, I think, or somewhere in the States, and she posted this AI feature that she did. Somebody had won Taylor's. Have you seen this? The Taylor.
No.
So somebody won Taylor Swift tickets, and instead of her, I'm not going to pretend I totally understand how this works, but instead of her calling the winner of the Taylor Swift tickets, she had the AI do it, and it was so. It was just bizarre because here you have somebody who's just losing their mind because they just won Taylor Swift tickets. Whether they're going to go or not, that's a different story. They could resell them. Yeah. But the AI was matching her voice and basically saying, hey, congratulations, you won tickets to see Taylor Swift. Oh, my God. Blah, blah, blah. Yes, way to go. You're going to go to see Taylor Swift on October, blah, blah, blah. And it was just, there was no emotion whatsoever behind any of that. And it just, to me, it's just not the same. Now, with that said, I don't know what.
Well, because you're mimicking somebody that sounds like they might be a robot, right? Like the way that your speech pattern. But the problem with this episode, I know, yeah. But the problem with this Toronto Mic'd episode is it does sound like, and I'm a realist. You can call me a skeptic, whatever. But I will say, it's getting pretty damn good at mimicking the cadence and the speech patterns of us human beings. So really, it's the content now where you feel like there's Rob Pruce's name and Mrs. Ochmonek, because you do know Mrs. Ochmonek from Elf. Do you remember Mrs. Ochmonek on Elf?
We're talking about Alf.
Do you remember Alf?
Alien life form, yeah.
Of course you do, yeah. So that's where they're eating the cats, Jeff.
From Melmac.
Eating the cats, Melmac. And Mrs. Ochmonek was the neighbor, then went on to play Jerry Seinfeld's mom on Seinfeld, and people know her best from that. But when she was a younger actress, she dated James Dean. So this is in one of the FOTM casts. So this is kind of in this 13 to 15 minute thing that I dropped in the Toronto Mic'd feed. Sounds like 2 real people having a real conversation, except for these little differences and the fact that it completely lacks soul. My fear for radio is that they don't have human. I'm already upset at all the voice tracking and that things are not local anymore. You don't have this gig anymore, but you'll be doing a show. You voice tracked your show. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you voice track a show, and how many markets were you in?
I don't even know.
But a bunch.
Yeah.
Across the coast. I was reading coast to coast. That got me very excited. Coast to coast. Okay. So coast to coast, you're on many markets, voice tracked. So you're not live or local. And the one thing we had going is that you're still a human being because I can reach out and punch you.
Yeah.
But once you lose that humanity, what's the point of it all? What's the point?
Yeah, I mean, there were times where, I mean, I can tell you right now, when the Queen passed away,
Yeah.
I wanted to, I wanted to go on and say something about it,
Right.
but all my songs were like these fast songs, and it's like, and I can't control where
It's
my
automated.
because I'm hitting post. I'm not stopping down and doing a break. I'm talking over song intros, so it's like, hey, here's some sad news. The Queen died. Oh, Black Betty, bam, a lamb. It's just, it's not the same. And then,
Right.
you know what I mean? And then there's stuff.
Great point.
There's stuff also with, and I felt bad about this because I would get emails from people asking me when Alberta with the wildfires.
Right.
I would get an email. Hey Jeff, do you know if such and such road is closed? And
Right.
I don't know.
And you're like, I was in Grand Prairie about 20 years ago. My goodness, you're so right. And I often joke about, like back in the day, let's say December 1980, when John Lennon it was announced John Lennon was killed outside his apartment in New York. Q107 and Chum FM particularly, but many a station in Toronto would stop down with a live person talking about John Lennon, talking about the Beatles, and they just played Beatles songs, and they played Imagine, and they played, John Lennon songs, and everybody would tune in and hear this live, immediate reaction to the death of this icon. It's tough to do that nowadays with all this automation. Like, it's tough to break in.
Yeah, I mean, well, you remember when John Lennon passed away, Howard Cosell went on the football broadcast.
Monday Night Football.
But I'll say this, at Boom, we had the ability to change things up on a dime. And one of the best, I'm getting goosebumps right now, actually, thinking about it. When Gord Downey passed away, Boom switched to, I know some other stations played some hip songs, but we went all tragically hip. And not to get like sappy here, but when I came on at night, first of all, the phones were just off the hook. And everybody who called had a story about Gord Downey. And the common denominator was that Gord Downey was just such an incredible person. Gord Downey would spend time talking to you to the point where his crew had to say, Gord, it's time to go. And everybody, I'm getting goosebumps. Everybody shared these stories. People were calling, people were crying. Some of us announcers were even shedding a tear over the stuff that people were telling us. But that's the thing that we were able to do as a radio station. Wayne, Troy, whoever decided, hey, we're going to switch things up and get all hip. We knocked out every song. CanCon was great that day. But I mean, that's what we did. I see. Are you a hip fan? You got
I'm a big time hip fan. Absolutely.
But yeah, when we flipped the switch on that one, it was just, it was one of my most memorable moments in radio was that day. And the amount of feedback that we got from listeners.
So you are able to do it. It's just whether it's worth it or not. So you can't. I was thinking,
well, that was live though. That wasn't a voice track show. That was live. That was live.
Right. Because I do wonder, like, when the next big rock. I mean, these people are getting older. We got Paul McCartney's in his 80s. You got Mick Jagger. Like, these rock icons are going. Spoiler alert! Shout out to Ridley Funeral Home, but they're gonna die. Like the Gord Downey, you're right, and that you have no CanCon worries with Gord Downey passing away because you can just nail those hip songs, no problem. But we are going to lose Roger Daltrey, and we are going to lose, Robert Plant, and Q107 is going to have to deal with when I don't know, Steven Tyler and Ozzy Osbourne. I mean, let me tell you more people who will die. But this is absolutely when radio should shine, right? A live local voice being able to play these songs and talk about these people with the fans.
Yeah, I mean,
but you were able to do that for Gord, which is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, with that said, even if you are doing the voice tracking thing, technically you could switch it out. So let's use Steven Tyler if he passes away. If you wanted to flip and do all Aerosmith, you could do it, but it would be more work for the voice. The voice tracker would have to go back on and redo their voice tracks. But you couldn't do, like I said earlier, with the phone calls. You couldn't take those phone calls and get people to share their experiences. I also don't think you could get that being, maybe if to again use Steven Tyler, maybe if you're a Boston station, sure. But with Gord Downey,
right,
everybody had a story. I mean, Canada. Well, what were those memes going around? Canada's closed right now.
Death in the Family.
Well, yeah, or the final show in Kingston, Canada's
August
closed.
20, 2016.
Yeah, Canada's closed because we're all watching, Gord Downey's last show.
Did you watch the documentary on Prime?
No, I have not yet.
You'll love it, man. It sounds like
Yeah.
you're a hip fan. In fact, that's close to where I wanted to close things with you. Was on the music front. We did shout out earlier my music at work, actually.
Easy Rock.
I love Easy Rock.
I remember that too.
Lisa Gibbons and John Tesh. What the fuck did they have to do with Toronto? Don't ask me. John Tesh. Oh my
John
goodness.
Tesh is still on, isn't he on CHFI from 9 to midnight?
You know, if you say so, my terrestrial radio listening is not what it used to be, but I'm sure he's somewhere. People seem to dig that. John
No,
Tesh.
he is. I remember we had him in Timmins. He was doing a syndicated show, and he would tee up his episodes, and I'll never forget. It was like, hey, this is John Tesh. Tune in tonight. Have you ever been trapped on a roller coaster upside down? Yeah, I'm going to let you know what you need to do with more information for your head, or whatever he called it. And it's like, really? How many times have you been stuck on a roller coaster, John?
Shout out to Fabio, who got nailed on a roller coaster once. It reminds me of that Simpsons episode where the DJ 2000 or whatever, remember? Like, how
Oh.
about those clowns in Congress? And he's like, how do they know? Like,
Yeah.
it's evergreen content. Scary times to be a radio professional. I got secondhand anxiety, but I know you'll be okay. But I feel like this pie just only shrinks. It's not growing. I think I think we're gonna have a reunion of Cam Gordon, and we're gonna get you into a new industry where you can not worry so much about that tap on the shoulder every 6 months. Okay, so we did briefly touch on the hip. I really enjoyed their Prime series, by the way, but I'm a big hip head, but I thought it was great. What are your jams before we say goodbye today? And I've enjoyed this very much. And I do want to shout out recyclemyelectronics.ca because, Jeff, that's where you go if you have old electronics and old cables. You don't throw it in the garbage. The chemicals end up in our landfill. You go to recyclemyelectronics.ca, put in your postal code, and then it'll be like, drop it off here, and we'll properly recycle it. And that's amazing. So take a note on that. But what are the songs you listen to?
I'm a big Bob Marley guy. I like The Cure. I like a lot of. I like the hip. I like Zeppelin. I like. I like a lot of stuff that Boom plays. Like, you know, it was just kind of my music. But I also love a lot of Latin music. I like reggae music. Yeah, those are my jams.
Those are your jams. At some point, we should get you back to kick out the jams here. Like, just play your 10 favorite songs of all time, and you can talk them up, and you can pretend you're back on the radio, and then it'll be a lot of fun for both of us. So that's something we should definitely do. Any final thoughts? Any final any stories you were driving here and you were thinking, I got to remember to tell this one, or the time that I interviewed Robert Plant, and you got anything here on our way out?
Couldn't say that I ever interviewed Robert Plant. No, actually, the one story I wanted to tell you, because I thought you might have asked me like what was like a big show on Boom for you. I was going to say,
I should have asked that,
the tragically,
but
hip,
I got the story anyway.
the Tragically Hip Day. I remember I covered for Stu once, and Robin Williams died, and a lot of people called, and it was like Robin Williams was everybody's friend. Yeah. That you already asked it.
See, it came up organically because how long, when you were on Boom, how long did you talk between songs? Like was there a rule? How much time? Like, I think when was it basically you just had to talk over the intro and over the outro?
So you talk over intros, and then you have one stopping break where you can you get about 45 seconds to a minute, which is plenty of time to do whatever you want. Yeah, there's rules, but there's, you can, so that's what I was saying earlier about, specifically Matt and myself, we would always bring on.
And Matt, what's his last name?
Story.
Okay, Matt's
We would bring on a lot of callers. Like, that was our thing. Like, we were known to be like the interaction. Like, whenever we needed like audio bits, our program director would reach out to us and say, hey, can you maybe get somebody saying blah, 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 or like, hey, it's a totally 80s long weekend, woo, kind of thing. We would be the ones that would try and get that. Not that the others didn't, but it was just kind of our little thing, right?
Right.
But it was great speaking with the listeners and just getting to know them. And one of the biggest compliments I think that you can get in radio is when you do a bit, regardless of what you talk about. You don't say, hey, what are your thoughts? Call me at blah, blah, blah. You just do the bit, you get out, and then next thing you know, they call you up with a response to your bit. And second, they say, oh, hey, Jeff, or hey, Mike. You know what I mean? Like they know
Yeah.
your name. They're your
Right.
friend. They talk to you. I didn't give you the number. I didn't tell you to call me, but you're calling me and you're saying my name. I think it's a huge compliment if you're a disc jockey or if you're on-air personality, whatever you want to call us these days.
I realize now before I play some lowest of the low and then and say goodbye, and don't leave without the lasagna from Palma Pasta. It's in my freezer. And then we do have to take a picture by the Toronto tree. But on the way out, just Toronto Radio Talk is basically fairly recently, 88.1 Indy 88 and 102.1 CFNY, 102.1 The Edge. Those two stations seem to be boomifying their lineup, okay? So if you check out the playlists, and they have it on their websites and stuff, you'll see 80s boomy type songs slipping in more often than it used to. Like they're definitely, and Q did this, of course, back in the
I was
day.
just going to say that.
Yeah, well, Q's got, I guess you guys, thanks to your fantastic broadcasting, Jeff, you guys started to eat Q's lunch, and then suddenly Q's like, we got to play some Duran Duran too. Like, why have we never
Cure,
played
Depeche
Cure?
Mode.
All those they would never play, right? Those were like, I won't even use the phrases they used to use, but those were the songs that they left for like CFNY or whatever, and they didn't touch those songs, especially the synth stuff. But they suddenly said, hey, we need to boomify our playlist. And I think 88.1 and 102.1, who are like alt-rock stations, are starting to boomify as well. And all of this should be good for a comfortable professional voice like yours. Like if you needed a DJ on 88.1 or 102.1, Jeff Spindel is a known name for that format and will be comfortable when you try to take some of those boom people and bring them over. Like you might find out there is an appetite for what you offer.
It's a nice compliment to Boom, though. You got to think about it that way too, right?
No.
I mean,
Is that Wayne Webster?
it's
Like, is he
working.
the guy who gets all the credit for that, Wayne Webster?
He schedules everything. Not only that, but I don't know if you've ever scheduled music before, but he does it one song at a time. You have the option. You basically have the option of just throwing it all out there, and then you can kind of, sometimes they call it massage it, right? You fix things for time. And I can tell you, I used to schedule music. I hated it. It's time consuming, and I would do it on 1 hour at a time. He's doing it one song at a time, and I know and that's public knowledge because I've read that.
And he's been on this show and he's talked about it too.
Well, he
Absolutely.
had called me yesterday.
So he knows you're here? Did you mention?
I said I was coming here, and he said that he was here, that he has been here, but no, he just called because he just
see how
wanted
you're
to
doing.
see how I was doing. Yeah,
Which is very kind of him to do that, actually,
Yeah.
because basically, other than the death of a child or spouse or something, like the losing of your job is one of the more stressful events that will occur in your life, Jeff. So this is not easy what you're going through. So I'm glad he checked in on you.
yeah. No, everybody who I thought would check in from the station and friends or stuff, they've all checked in. All nice dudes, man. All nice guys and girls at Boom. Honestly, I have nothing bad to say.
Good, because you haven't shored up that severance yet. So I can hear your lawyer on the other line. He's
Yeah.
like, Jeff, don't shit on Boom. We haven't cashed that check yet. No, Jeff, honestly, we talked about your radio history. You've been 20 plus years, 14 plus on Boom, now owned by Stingray, which puts you coast to coast. But I'm happy I got to meet you, and I'm sure our paths will cross again. And when you do land that next gig, you can come on and talk about it.
November 30th, aren't we doing the?
Well, that's when that's when I brokered the deal to tell Cam basically to one of the many communications jobs he didn't take because they were only offering $200,000 a year. One of those could be yours. Would you settle for that?
Yes.
And you'll eat for free that day, okay? Peter Gross will tell you it's the greatest lasagna he's ever had. So you're gonna have a good time at Palma's Kitchen. Everyone's invited. November 30th, 2024, noon to 3 p.m. And that brings us to the end of our 1,561st show. Only humans on this program. There will be no sequel to episode 1,560. You can go to my website, torontomike.com, and follow me everywhere. Jeff, so you mentioned Facebook. Jeff Spindel on radio, I believe. But what's the best way to follow what's going on in your?
Yeah,
your-
Jeff Spindel on the radio is a good way on Facebook. I'm also on Twitter, but I'm not a big Twitter guy. Or sorry, X, but it's Jeff_Spindel.
You can call it Twitter on this program. Jeff
yeah.
_Spindel. And remember, Spindel's got one L just to keep you on your toes.
Yeah, I should have switched that.
It's too late now, unless you're KJ, in which case you can do whatever you want. Much love to all who made this possible. Again, that's Great Lakes Brewery. Jeff's got his craft beer going home with him. Palma Pasta, he's got his lasagna. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. He'll be heading there in his browser as soon as he gets home. Raymond James Canada. Moneris, you've got your speaker. And Ridley Funeral Home, you've got your measuring tape. See you all tomorrow when my special guest is Mary Jo Eustace, who is was on Traders Canada Season 2 and is now available to talk about it, so you could read between the lines. Oh, did I mention spoiler alert? See you all then.
Well, I've been told that there's a sucker born every day, but I wonder who. Yeah, I wonder who. Maybe the one who doesn't realize there's 1,000 shades of gray. 'Cause I know that's true. Yes, I do. I know it's true. Yeah, I know it's true. How about you? Are they picking up trash and they're putting down roads? And they're brokering stocks, the class struggle explodes. And I play this guitar just the best that I can.